Hey guys, how's it going? SoCal here. Today I want to do a video on changing out the tool head on this guy and the shell plate. My buddy Robbie over at Pop's Quest. How's it going, buddy? Just recently got one of these, and I think Bald and Curious is also going to be getting one. I'm trying to talk him into it, and anybody else for that matter who's interested in separating yourselves from $1,800 for the sake of reloading and having a machine that is literally solid as a rock and will do everything you could possibly want in the reloading process. This is one for you right here. So yeah, the tool head change out is a little more involved, for lack of a better word. It's not difficult, but compared to the like 550 and 650 machines. So I just want to go through and make a new video on how I've kind of adapted my procedure, I guess, for lack of a better word, compared to the last video I did 4 or 5 years ago when I first got these machines. So I'm going to grab some tools. I'm going to bring in nice and close. We're going to do this. Stick around. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do is remove this cotter pin that holds the safety on the powder measure. You're going to want to pull this guy out. I'm working from the other side of the machine, hard to see. We'll pull this out and then remove the bar, just let it fall. Okay, the next thing we want to do is there's another cotter pin here that holds the kind of the safety and indexer for the tool head. This cotter pin right here. Pull this out. This whole mechanism right here is going to slide out. This is what actuates the powder drop or the primer. I'm going to pull this out. Don't lose the pin. There's also a washer in here. Just keep it all together. Alright, so next thing you're going to do is pull the case feeder tube, and depending on what caliber you're changing to, you may or may not need this bushing that fits where the cases feed onto the shell plate. Alright, so this is where it's going to get a little interesting. You want to get a 15/16 socket, and we're going to loosen this big bolt here, and really all you need to do is just break it, and the rest is just easy with the fingers. You can see that bolt's got some heft to it, right? So I'm going to leave that in my bullet tray there. Alright, so next step, this may or may not be something you need to do, but I'm going to pull my low powder alarm off. That tells me when I'm running low on powder. And I'm going to borrow one, just a regular cap that comes with them. I'm just going to throw that on there just for the sake of not hurting the powder alarm if I bump it on something or something to that effect. And then we're going to come down and we're going to take the tool head off. And to do that, what you need to do, there is a spring that you can see right just on the other side of the primer magazine. There, now you can see it, it's in view better. You can see that spring right here. It's pretty good tension on that spring pushing up away from the machine. It's kind of what helps you return the tool head to the top of the stroke. So what we're going to do, I'm going to zoom you out a little bit here. What you're going to need to do is pull the handle and just kind of wiggle the tool head back and forth, and that spring tension is going to kind of help you here. Alright, so don't drop the handle at this point, you just want to lower it. Alright, so the tool head's free, except it's captured by this spring, as well as there's safety back here want to have to kind of push that out of the way and then just let it kind of ride up, and you're free. So we're going to take this, set it off to the side. Alright, so the next part, what we got to do is get the tool head swapped, or pardon me, the shell plate swapped out. And to do that, there's a couple of steps you need to take. First of all is you have to undo these Allen key screws, just loosen them about a full turn from tight, maybe 2 turns. You don't have to pull them all the way out. You just need enough so it's loose. Just so you can see it's already spinning here. But you do want to loosen them so you don't kind of wreck that nylon, these little nylon things that hold it in place. So this just rotates on off. On off. That makes sense, right? Alright, so pull this guy out. And then also on the other side of the machine, you're going to have to loosen this little key here. You don't pull it all the way off, just loosen it enough so you can rotate this up and out of the way. That's what pushes the cases onto the or out of the shell plate on into your little bin there. So at this point you're ready to just move the case shover, is what I call it. It's what pushes the shell plates, or the cases, onto the shell plate. Just push it out of the way and you should be able to just reach and pull the shell plate off. So we'll set that aside and take your new shell plate, and I want to show you a little something over here. Okay, so we're ready to put the shell plate on. What I like to do is I have some weapons grease. It's this extreme weapons grease. Go to the underside of the shell plate, and what I like to do is just take a goop, a blob of it on my hand, just kind of smear it so it kind of indexes on the inside of the hole, like this. And I'll just run my finger around. So what we're doing is getting the inside of that nice and goopy. And then also I'll take another blob of it and just kind of run it around the circumference of the shell plate, and then smear the rest of it on my mat. Alright, let's get it on the machine. Okay, so to get it on the machine, we're just basically reversing this whole process. If you will notice there's some stuff in here. So what I'm going to do, just take a paintbrush, just kind of brush all the nasties out of there. Another thing I like to do is hit it with some canned air. If you have a, a compressor, that would work just as great. Just to blow any loose material out. Then you'll take your tool head, drop it on, drop it on. Yeah. And there we go. And then we're just basically going to reverse the process. So we're going to take our shell plate nut and screw it back on. All the way down till it bottoms out. And then we're going to flip this guy over and tighten him back up. This thing is keyed so that it doesn't scrape against the shell plate. Just tighten it a little bit. And then what we're going to do is, so this thing is completely bottomed out right now. What I'm going to do is turn it a quarter turn, And then what I'm going to do is run the handle just to see that the shell plate is turning smoothly without any slack in it. I'm happy with that, so I'm just going to tighten these screws that lock it in place. And those screws in particular, you don't need to tighten them super tight, just so they're basically hand tight. These pieces of plastic that are in here, they do get brittle over time and will shatter on you. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is I'll just take some heavy gun oil, just get a little on my finger, kind of work it, and then just rub it around on this piece right here. It's not necessary, this is just kind of a preservative. You know, steel likes oil, so let's just oil that guy. And next we got to put the tool head on. Alright, so I have a tool head here that's not even set up. It's the dies are installed, and I'm going to be running some 6/8 on it. So, but it is a brand new tool head. So what I'm going to do with a nice generous helping of goop, more gun grease, I'm going to the shaft back here that indexes the safety. I'm going to just get it nice and scoopied up. Run around all the sides. And we're going to take that end and we're going to run it through the center of this spring. Okay. And I don't have a lot of room to work with here, so it might be a little fumbly. Next thing you want to do is just make sure that that little hook on the safety engages this ratchet. At the same time, you're also making sure that that rod runs down into the hole where it belongs in. Alright. So at this point, we just run the ram up and just try to line the holes up. And it looks good. We're going to take our nut. Alright, we have our nut. Just run it into the hole. And we're just going to finger tighten it so you still get a little bit of play in here. Then we're going to run the machine down. Alright, so one more thing that I actually almost forgot is you do need to replace this piece that drops into here, and then you'll notice this little pin, how it gets this shaft bar, whatever you want to call it, gets narrow. That's what indexes the primers. So you want to make sure you drop this end into that little bar. You'll see what I'm talking about when you have a look. Shove that up on there like so. Replace that cotter pin. We haven't tightened this yet, so you're going to want to run the handle down. What that does is it locks everything into place, and then we can tighten this guy. You don't really need it stupid tight. So the last thing we need to do is just bring this powder bar safety up and make sure it locks in. It's a little short right now, so we'll just loosen that nut at the bottom, twist it up a bit so that it can index in here, and throw the cotter pin in that. And that's really all there is. The only thing else you need to do is just make sure that for the this little bushing here that goes in the case receiver, Just got to replace it, and then put your tube back in, clamp it up to the receiver on the case dropper, and that's it. I mean, it looks and seems terribly involved, you guys, but when you get good at it and you're not filming it, it's pretty simple, and goes by pretty fast when you're not talking and doing it, you're just doing it. So it is expensive to change these guys out. They are, I mean, the tool heads alone are 175 bucks, and you know, then you got another 80 in the powder, 60 in this, 300 on dies, whatever. But tell you what, these things are built like a tank, and it will last you a lifetime. So I'm all set up to do 6/8 now. Appreciate you guys sticking around. Robbie, congrats on the 1050, brother. Hope this helps you out, dude. This is the easiest way I think I can describe it for you. Once you do it a few times, it's going to be cake. Bald and Curious, don't let this scare you, man. You got this. And anybody else who's interested in 1050 is a tank. Like I said, it'll last you a lifetime. So you know what to do. Hit that sub button, give me a thumbs up, and stick around.